Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Major, part number MCE-100. Extend the Cylinder Drill Guide is what it is. This is a drill guide. It's a fixture, it's a template, it's a jig, whatever you'd like to call it. It is a tool that is used when you need to extend the length of a mortise cylinder. The process of extending the length of the mortise cylinder requires two holes to be drilled. Those two drilled and tapped. Those two holes need to be drilled in the right location. I mean, spot on, with no tolerance. If you don't have those holes located precisely accurately, the brass extension and the plug the plug extender that will go through the extension, they're not going to rotate very well. Those holes are drilled through the extension so precisely that they must line up very well, and this fixture is made by the factory to help ensure that. So we're going to talk in detail about how to go about using the tool, but first let's just go over some dimensional properties. First of all, it weighs 1.81 pound. Overall width of the fixture, about 3 5/8. Overall height, about 2 inch. The thickness with one of the plates installed, and there are two plates, is about 1 1/4 inches. The second plate, well, let's just study this. We'll say drill guide on it. Okay, drill guide. It's the first plate that goes on. The second plate, it's called the tap guide. You'll put that on during the process of what you're working on. You're going to get installation instructions. It's a lot of paper that they send you. The reason there's a lot of paper, we'll go over that in a moment. It's very much to our benefit. You're going to get a tap handle. You're going to get a tap. You are going to get a drill bit with a stop collar. You're going to get 3 Allen wrenches, and you'll need all 3 of these for working with the tool itself. So we've talked about the dimensional properties and the weight. Now, let's dive in and figure out exactly what this thing is used for. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, what are you going to use this for? Well, as I had said earlier, you've got to drill a couple of holes. Let's take a closer look at it. So, what has to happen is, we're going to take this lowly little, I'm not sure what length, well, don't have to guess. We're going to take this cylinder that's 15/16, maybe 7/8 in length. Maybe 1 inch. Let's say if we need to make this 2 inch for whatever reason. Looks like it's just a Schlag C keyway. It is. Okay. We need to make this cylinder longer. And there is a video below, a video below this video that shows in detail the steps of going about how to extend a cylinder, where I'm actually doing it. I've recorded every step of making the cylinder. So this video will serve more as a summary version of that. And the next step to the installation instructions is, this is a Kaba Ilko cylinder. You have to install what they call the cam driver, and this is I have a cam driver here, obviously. This is an MCE-D1. This has to go onto the back of the cylinder before you can install the cylinder into the fixture to start the process of drilling and tapping. Oops. So I'm just going to install that. It has to be installed because it's going to be part of the way by which to ensure that you have the unit installed in the correct location. Okay, so I have this cam driver installed. Okay. I want to be careful on that. Okay. Yeah, okay, so cam driver is installed. Then according to the installation instructions, the next thing to do is to get it installed or put into the fixture. And we're going to go over the installation instructions a little bit separately, but just to do a reasonably quick walkthrough of this, I've taken the tool and I've loosened these two screws here and here. What you need to do now is you need to get the cylinder. All you're going to do is push it into, actually first, this large screw, let's open that up. That's what's going to clamp the cylinder into the fixture itself. So let's loosen that up. Oh, it's already loose. I'm going to back that out just a little bit. Got that backed out. So everything on here is loose. So I'm going to take my cylinder and I'm going to literally push it into the back of the unit. It will snap in. There are a couple of ball bearings that are back there, and there, that will kind of hold it in and together in those milled grooves on either side of a mortise cylinder. So we're going to get that in there and pushed in. It's important that it bottoms out to the plate, that it's all the way in, is what I'm driving at. It has to be all the way in. So there it is. Now we're sure that it's all the way in. Very good. Now, the reason that this is important is because the cam driver is going to breach into this hole that's here. Before you tighten everything up, you need to make sure that the key moves freely, that the cam driver rotates correctly. If that's not in alignment, then where you place those two holes and drill them, here and here, are also not going to be in alignment. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to, and in my experience, and this is where learning how to use the tool comes into play, I'm going to tighten them all like you would bolts on a car tire or truck rim. Not one all the way tight. You have to work your way around. I have found that when you tighten one down and then the other one, the unit is shifting. Okay, so I've got those seated. I'm going to check to make sure that my key still turns. Yeah, it does. It hasn't changed at all. I'm going to leave the key in there this time. I'm going to take the bolts on top of here and I'm going to tighten them a little bit more. Make sure my key still turns. Yeah, it turns well. Not a problem. I'm going to give that another turn. So now it's hand tight. Now they're hand tight. Yeah, key still turns really well. I'm now going to make sure that my main bolt clamping the cylinder to the fixture is now tight. That's hand tight. Let's make sure that we're still in good shape. Yeah, we're still in good shape. So that works really well. So the next step is probably rather obvious to you. I've got that cylinder installed. The next step is going to be to drill those holes right into there. Now, they have a drill bit included. It has a stop collar on it. You're going to need to set the stop collar so that you do not breach into the material too far. And we can see that that stop collar is in the wrong location for a 1-inch or 7/8 cylinder like this. We're going to need to back that out. Before you get to this step, you're going to want to measure where the stop collar really ought to be. And that's based on how long are the screws from the extender, the brass extender itself. How far does that have to penetrate into the back of the cylinder collar? So because when you're doing this part of the video, you'll have that piece, pardon me, when you're doing this part of the project, you'll have your extender cylinder, okay? Where I've moved the stop collar is probably reasonably close to where it needs to be, just to make sure that the screws go all the way down. And obviously what's most important is that you do not blow and breach through the face of the cylinder when you're drilling through it. So assuming that that length, that position of the stop collar is reasonable, what I would then do is I would install my bit. I personally would put a small amount of thread cutting oil in it. I always do. I would drill both of my holes. I would go extremely slow. It's brass, so it'll be relatively easy to cut, but you don't want to heat up the tool. drill both of the holes down to the stop collar. When it makes contact with the face of the fixture, stop. Don't go any further, pull that out. Okay, so now you've got a couple of holes drilled. At this point, loosen all your bolts. Actually, no, I don't think so. I think all we're going to do at this point is... yeah, all you're going to do is remove this faceplate. Okay, so let's loosen the drill guide faceplate. And we're going to replace it with the tap faceplate. The tap guide faceplate. All I'm doing is pulling the screws out. Okay. Pull out the second one. Doesn't take very long to do this entire project. You know, it's not minutes, but you get into a groove and you learn the personality of the tool, so to speak, and you'll be able to make pretty quick time over the project. At least I have been able to. And again, that video down below details a client's requirements. The drill plate is now removed. Now I'm going to put the tap guide in place. Let's do that now. And you're going to want to leave the mortise cylinder in place because you're going to use the tightened mortise cylinder as a locator for that cam driver to sit right in there. And then we're going to tighten up these two. We're going to install and then tighten up those two screws. So let's do that now. Just have it on my desktop here. Again, I'm going to tighten them like a truck tire rim. Get it seated so that the plate really doesn't move. And then check the key. Make sure that it still turns. Oh yeah, it's pretty smooth. Okay, so let's get that. What we're doing is we're tightening that now. Get it to a point where it's hand tight. And you'll note that this plate still floats a little bit. Okay, which, you know, is how this works by design. Very smooth. Now at this point, it's going to be a matter of the tap and the tap handle. Okay, if you've ever tapped a hole, you know the hallmark with doing this successfully is to be patient. The last thing in the world that you want to do is rush and break a tap off into a hole. While I've tapped lots of holes, I don't often break a tap in a hole, but I have in the past. And that's awful. That's going to mean very likely starting over from scratch. And the reason that it's a major problem if you break a tap inside the hole is you can't get it out generally at all, because drilling that tap out is going to be impossible, and it's harder than the material that it's been embedded into. Sometimes you can extract it, depending on where it broke. So, again, thread cutting oil is what I do. And I find that because it's made of brass, it's super easy. It will, with thread cutting oil, it will still feel like you are, as you're tapping the hole, pressure will increase and then it will break, and then pressure will increase and then it will break. I can't explain the metallurgy of brass. It might be slightly brittle in that sense when you're cutting and tapping into it. But thread cutting oil really helps, not only in the process of ensuring that you are not breaking a tap, but again, life of the tap itself. If you're going to know, I think, when you're going too hard, when you really start to put a lot of pressure rotationally, that's the line. Go back, clear it out. Small incremental steps forward, back. 2 steps forward, 1 back, so to speak. That sort of scenario, and you'll be able to drill those, tap those holes pretty well. So at the point where you have the holes tapped, you then remove your bolts I'm going to remove the bolts here, go through the rest of the steps with you. And the next step will not be the step that you think. Now I have found that the tool that I have this tool. It's not this one, this is inventory. That it has a personality. And that you learn how to adjust with it. The first one that you'll do, you'll learn how to do the second one even better. And what I mean by that is I had mentioned earlier about the tolerance existing between where the cam plug or the cam driver comes through and the two holes. You'll learn exactly how to tighten this all up. So now we've got this so that it works very well for you. We've got the tap guide removed. We'll put that aside. The next step is to take everything and clean it. You've got thread cutting oil everywhere at this point. Don't use a lot of it. You don't need a lot. But get everything disassembled and then immediately clean your tool. My opinion is that at this moment is when you absolutely do not proceed until the tool has been cleaned and returned back to how you store it. Having a little thread cutting oil on the material is not going to cause a problem, but nonetheless, you want to make sure you get all the burrs off. I personally will use a compressor. I will blow that material off and then I will carefully wipe it all off. So at this point, if this was the real deal, you'd have a couple of drilled and taps holes there. You'll bring your extender, you'll tighten your two screws. What I like to do is drop a little thread lock into those holes, tighten the screws up, make sure it works really well, add my cam back with the two screws. Now you're done. It's that simple. Now I think what we'll do at this point is step to the installation instructions and we will go over what I just went through. And I'll use just a typical shop tool, a soft shop tool for cleaning all of this off. I don't want the burrs to mark this nice double anodized aluminum material. As we put the tool back together, I have drilled a handful of cylinders with a single drill bit and tap, and I don't believe at all gotten even close to the life expectancy of either of this material. The question obviously that we're asking is what size is this, and I want to confirm that it's 832. I have found, yeah it is, it's an 832 tap. I would personally be sure to order the original equipment from the manufacturer, which I don't see these parts listed separately, but I'll find out if they are available. The reasoning is because this is not a bottoming tap. This has about 4 or 5 threads of lead on it. When I switch to the screen view, we're going to take a real close look at what the definition of types of taps are. This is a number 29. You won't be able to see that, but it's a number 29 drill bit is what is appropriate for an 832. It is not a fractional size, it's a wire size, number 29, high-speed steel. Now, let's switch to the screen view. Let's go over the type of tap that I would expect that this would be, and then we're going to look at the supporting information, and we'll as a result, we'll go through the installation instructions. But I, in summary, demonstrated exactly how this would work. Let's do that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Let's take a look at the item. I had mentioned we're going to take a look and see if we can define what type of tap this is, and let's do so. Irwin is the company whose hand tools that we use and sell. And the reason I think of Irwin is because they have a very good introductory amount of information when it comes to drills and taps, and it's under their reference guide. Metal drilling reference guide. Actually, this is going to confirm that an 832 requires a number 29. Drill bit as we look for 832. Okay. 832. Took me a minute to sort it out. It's right here. 832, national course, which is what we have. Take a number 29 bit, which is a 0.136 diameter bit. So that verifies that. The document I was referring to is in the product guide. So I happen to be looking at an Irwin 1005 product brochure. In the beginning of this document, they're going to teach us about taps. So we have about 5 threads exposed. So the only tap that's here that meets that sort of description is called the plug tap, which I think is the most common of taps. Because you have a tap guide, I don't think you would need a self-aligning tap, which is nice because this allows you to get a substantial amount of tool into the hole before you start to create the threads, allowing you to create a straight sort of tapped hole. You don't want to tap holes at an angle at all. So a plug tap, I think, is what they're using here. You could use a self-aligning tap if you wanted to, but I think you're going to have to either start with the self-aligning tap and then go to a bottom tap, or just use the plug tap the way that the factory has engineered it. Bottom taps are good, would be good for this purpose if you needed to get dreadfully close to the face of the cylinder, but you have no reason to do that. So this would be a plug style tap that would be in our kit. Now the item that we are looking at, it's here. Let's take a look at some photographs that we have of the item. There's the box. There's everything in the box. That's the business end with the drill guide attached. That's the side view showing the screw to clamp the cylinder in. There are 2 of these screws on either side. You don't need to adjust those at all because they govern these ball bearings that are there. I've never had to change those settings. That large bolt is what tightens this down. There's your tap guide. Front side and now the back side. Tap handle, number 29 drill, 832 drill bit. Then those 3 Allen wrenches that you would need to service the tool. Now there is information down below this video in the extended description. Let's take a closer look at that. The MCE 100 drill guide is made up of a clamp to securely hold a mortise cylinder when drilling and tapping the required holes. There's the drill guide plate, which is black. They call it gray. It doesn't look gray to me at all. It may have been at one time. And the tapping guide, which is the red plate, includes a 29 drill and an 832 tap, machined from aluminum, and the drill and tap guides have hardened steel bushings. Finally, when you buy one, we'll ship you one. Now, installation instructions. We have gone over this basically step by step, but let's breeze through this. There are 10 pages here. Why do you need so many pages? Well, there's information to be conveyed for sure, but you'll notice that Major uses a large font, lots of pictures, which I think are extremely helpful. Okay. There is generally always a page that says where protective articles. I always wear gloves, safety glasses, earplugs, a mask. I wouldn't use a mask for this operation. But you always, regardless of what tool you're using, you want to always use or consider the use of protective equipment. So the summary of what it does is here, graphically. That's your cylinder that you're going to extend. These are the parts that you're going to buy. This is the cam driver. You need that right away. This, the plug extender, and the 2 screws are the other part that you need, and we're going to talk about how you order those in a moment. Remove the cam from the existing cylinder, install the cam driver. Loosen these screws, loosen the screw over here, install the cylinder in so that it bottoms out. There should be no space between the clamp and the drill guide. At that point, as I had done earlier, rotate the key to make sure everything operates smoothly and tighten up all your bolts. Once the cylinder rotates freely in the drill guide, tighten the 2 cap screws. After the guide has been tightened, check to make sure the cylinder still turns freely, and if not, readjust it. This step is important to ensure a good working modification. It has everything to do with that initial placement of the holes. Tighten the clamp to make sure that everything is stable. Check it again. They do not show using any thread cutting oil at all at this stage. I do. Drill both holes with the 29 drill bit. Adjust the stop on the drill bit so that the hole is drilled to the depth of about 3/4 inch. Obviously, verify that against what you're actually doing. Adjust the stop collar, stop so that it's about 1.25 inches above the tip of the drill bit. This will allow plenty of room for you to tap to the depth needed without bottoming out. Sure, I don't want to be drilling and tapping needlessly. I just want to make sure that I drill it to the right depth. Once that's done, remove everything. Remove the bolts, pull the drill guide off, put the tap guide on. That will be loose. You tighten those screws down, it'll still be loose. Make sure the key still turns, which I don't see why it wouldn't. Thread cutting oil. Patiently tap your 2 holes. Once that is done, loosen this screw. Remove these 2 screws. Loosen the clamping screw. Pull your cylinder out. Stop and clean your tool completely. Clean the back of the cylinder, and that's what it's going to look like when it's all said and done. Okay, your plug extender goes on. Your brass extender fits over all of that. Couple of drops of thread lock. Then your 2 screws. You'll know when you attach this whether or not you've drilled them in the perfect location by how freely the key will turn. Obviously, they're doing a Schlag L series modification here. And the last page talks about the different cam drivers, and we're going to talk about that in a separate document, which is here, the product brochure. This is going to be the 2-page document that governs everything about this MCE 100. So the important thing from here is the extensions are available in 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, and 1.25 inches. I've never stacked the 2 of these together, but don't see why I couldn't. In the sense that, you know, you're going to need the drive cam and then the extender. So there are 4 extension lengths, then there are drive cams. Okay. As I was saying, I've never stacked 2 of these together, but you can do that. In fact, they state here that you can. Kits can be stacked together. You're going to need a drive cam for stacking it, though. So if you're going to need an extension and a drive cam every time you install an extension. If you're going to install another extension onto the same cylinder, if you needed to make a 4-inch cylinder, you can do that. You're probably going to need 3 extensions, but you're going to need 3 drive cams as well. Now, these drive cams, you start to think about it and say, well, gosh, what's the deal with the drive cam? Well, the deal with the drive cam is there are different drive cams. The MCE-D1 is compatible with these brands of cylinders. I use MCE-D1 because I'm commonly extending Kaba Ilko, And the reason that is the case because of how common and stocked Kaba Ilko is. But you can see that there are different types here. If you know much about cylinders, you probably can tell what this one is for, with a single hole in the back. These other ones might be a little more difficult to spot, if not impossible. But nonetheless, here they are. The D3 is for Medico, the D4, Aero and Sargent. Obloy Protec. I have an Obloy Protec cylinder here. That would be, that's a 7A right there. If you're interested in high security cylinders, and you really want something that would be potentially impossible to really defeat, you'll want to look up the Obloy Protec. That is technology that is decades old, but is brilliant design. Corbin Russwin, Yale, obviously that one with the single hole with Schlag. They can do ASA as well. But if you're looking for garden variety material, MCE D1, Kaba Ilko, that's all going to be stocked. It'll look like this and it'll be easy. That's what it looks like when it's all said and done. Now, there is, as I had mentioned, a video below this video, and that video is basically here. And what I've done, what I needed to do in this project, and you just obviously click play, whole 9 yards. What I needed to come up with was a 2 1/4 inch cylinder with a Schlag F keyway, polished chrome with a Corbin Russwin cam. So 7205 Kaba Ilko is an 1 1/4 inch cylinder. I used the SX keyway, a composite keyway. I didn't want to do that, but it was my only choice. Stocked it in polished chrome, added 1 inch extensions, and then I also picked up the proper cam for that installation. And I will show you where I found that. It was the ML2000. Corbin Russwin, right here. The 863S is the cam for Corbin Russwin. So Schlag F keyway, going into Corbin Russwin motor cylinders, polished chrome, 2 1/4 inch length, and they needed to ship tomorrow. And that's what basically that entire video goes over. The point of the video, though, is if you wanted to see the actual drilling and tapping and every nuance, that would be the reference to look at. Okay. Now, finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page, which is here. And that will allow you to review not only all of the major products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Yes, most definitely the MCE 100 and all of its components are in this book, as are 106 other pages of hardware installation tools, security hardware. Items that, if you are looking to increase the security on an opening that you have, or openings, or you work in the security industry, or you're an integrator, you go out to the field and prep doors for locks, you re-prep material, this manufacturer's catalog is going to be required as a bookmark, in my opinion. As I scroll through, you might be saying, yes, I use those. Yes, I use those. Mounting brackets for aluminum storefront material or steel doors, whatever it might be. There is a latch protectors. There's a comprehensive offering of their HIT hardware installation tools that are in here that will allow you to install all kinds of to prep for lots of different lock manufacturers' function holes, prep the mortise pocket itself, prep the faceplate itself as well, and allow you to do that in a very professional, clean type of fashion. Lots of different parts and tools in here, and if you deal with any of this, if you're not already familiar with Major, you'll want to review it because they have a comprehensive system when it comes to being able to prep doors for hardware. For instance, I had a client last year need to do 10 aluminum storefront doors, wide style, for Schlag L9000 series locks. And we were able to sell him every single component he needed to do that. Not only the
the prep in the edge of the door, but all of the function holes. All that the client needed to do was install the mounting tabs, and he was done. So everything we were able to pull out of the Major catalog in order to do that. When it comes to this catalog, however, it might be that you'll want to reach out to us from the perspective that you may be unsure if you've gotten everything. And while I will not profess to be as intimately familiar with the product line as the people at Major, I've prepped a lot of doors in my life, and I have reviewed a lot of Major items. So I should be able to get you there, and if I can't, I'll leverage the knowledge at the factory to make sure that we get everything included. Okay? Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, when it comes to longer cylinders, we can generally pull out of stock 1.5 inches, but anything beyond that, actually we can pull out cylinders longer than that. I generally use Baldwin for longer cylinders. Baldwin locks are usually installed on 1.75 inch thick doors, but if any manufacturer's lock product is used on thicker doors, 2.25 or thicker, it's Baldwin. So we stock 1 5/8 inch, 1 3/4, 2 inch, and even longer than that when it comes to Baldwin material. I don't know if their driver is going to work on a Baldwin lock, a Baldwin mortise cylinder. Admittedly, I would not want to try to alter a cam driver. Yeah, I do not see the cam driver listed as compatible with Baldwin. I'll report back should I ever try it. The problem with extending Schlag cylinders is they're constantly. They change their platforms, so the driver that is today is not compatible with the driver that you're going to use on the cylinder that you're going to get today is the problem. And sticking with Cabo Illico is generally the reason that keeps us able to do this, because there's not been any design change. But it's always going to have to start with a cylinder. And I would, suggest wholeheartedly that you dive in and try this system. It's not difficult to do, and a little bit of practice, if you have more than one of them to do, if you've got 2 or 3 to do at a time, you'll be able to do it pretty quickly. You can even kind of delegate some of the work if 2 people will do it. So, the name Major is synonymous with all those items we mentioned earlier: lock installation kits, security hardware, fixtures, jigs, tools, templates. Excellent technical support over there at the factory. Every time that I email them or call them, they are able to answer the question on the spot. And to them, for that, I say thank you. Any questions on the MCE-100 drill, cylinder extension drill guide, or any other Major manufacturing product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.